Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are here now for the presentation of ARC Formula 2 for Race 7 with the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. That is a mouthful. We have a skeleton crew of a 9-car grid. Only one more than we had in AF3. And when I say that the manager is not ultra pleased about this. Be prepared ahead of time if there's a sudden halt in commentary from me. This is because my mom has walked through the door. So that's a lot of noise that gets made because our doors are not quiet, and neither are the people opening them. He's right on board with AJ Knickel as he's going to attempt to start his first lap of the session. This time we don't have a 10-minute delay on our hands to start the stream up. So, always love that. Start the stream on the scheduled time and not 12 minutes later. And there's an invalidation for the Canadian driver. Thanos' last name is in the Alfa Romeo. He's on a lap, just about gets cut off by the McLaren of Matthew Stotts. That's not Matthew Stotts, I'm blind. Matthew Stotts is in a Red Bull. That's Shane Wensloff, the actual McLaren driver, not. Yeah, anyway, Thanos just about loses it on the curb and he is going to retreat from this lap. Tyler Crabtree about runs into the back of that car, and both he and Matthew Stotts are on outlaps, as is the other McLaren that we saw earlier, who... Wow! I'm dumb. That was Crabtree the whole time, and Wensloff is nowhere nearby. Alright, so the first actual lap of the session will be a 106.3. We're definitely going to get faster than that. It's just a matter of, you know, as soon as one of these drivers gets a valid lap put on the table, that is fast. But considering how track limits here are, that might take a few minutes, if AF3 was any indicator. Knickel and Noah Smith ahead are both on laps. Knickel is about to feel the wrath of dirty air. And indeed, there it is, and that is now an invalid lap once again. Matthew Stotts also invalid. Crabtree is not, so we're right on board with him through the last sector of the course. And never mind. Gazzola has joined, so prepare for a bugged lobby. Oh joy. Shane Wensloff is on his way. As the ante is up slightly. Never mind, there's Thanos in the Alfa Romeo with a 104 flat. That's still not good. That's a big curb moment for Thanos. Luckily he got his lap in before doing that. Wide turn Clyde, there's a wall. And again, I reiterate, good thing he got his lap in before hooking that curb and ending up reversed. Matthew Stotts is on his lap now, allegedly a purple Sector 1, as far as the game wants us to assume. Wensloff hit a 104.99, and Matthew has just invalidated his lap once more. Tyler McIntosh is on an outlap. I don't know. It literally says right there, right here. 104.62, the fourth completed lap on the board. Matthew Stott's going to make another attempt. He's on mediums, so wearing these tires out isn't a doomsday scenario. But another invalidated lap is. The one car making a debut in this race is Ellie Carr, pun not really intended, I swear. Who, despite having made 0 Grand Prix up to this point, has already been signed on for Williams, I believe, under HRT for AF2 from this point onward. As Darius McGill now joins the session, so slowly but surely the session's numbers are counting upward. And so this will be a big moment of proving oneself for the new Williams driver. They're right into the middle of the championship. As they get a little loose through turn 3, right? Numbers are apparently difficult right now. It doesn't really help that, if you ask me, Red Bull Ring has 8 corners, and I won't be convinced otherwise. But no, that little kink going up towards the corner at the top of the hill, that's apparently a corner, but the other kink that's going towards turn 4 isn't. Instead, no, technically it's a double apex right-hander after it. That makes it a 10-corner lap. It was a solid-looking lap, but Ellie has invalidated it in the second to last corner, and we will be getting no lap from her there. I'm going to assume that that's a she. I know that it's 2022, you aren't supposed to do that, but, like, until I'm hearing otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and estimate. Because I thought for a second that Stotts was about to get another invalidation. He indeed is, so he's going to wear those mediums off. He's going to give those mediums a puncture before he even gets a completed lap in, I think. I do not know this Alpine's name. I haven't been told who this is. I feel like I should know, and Matthew Stotts is retired from the session somewhere. Gabe Cazola is starting his first lap of the race. He has a Mexican flag on his... Oh, that's because he's Sergio Perez. I was like, he's got a Mexican flag on his helmet, but don't be fooled, because he is indeed from the U.S. Darius McGill joins the fray. And when I say the fray, I mean that wholeheartedly. It is going to be a fray if AF3 was in the indicator. Somewhere along the way, some more laps did get put in. AJ Knickel ran a 4.5. McIntosh a 4.69. Nice. And Ellie did manage a 105 too. Gabe has just about lost the vehicle coming out of 7. Well, he made a valid lap, which honestly, considering what I've seen from this session, making a valid lap on your first effort is a decent accolade. Looks like Noah Smith with an invalid lap is the only car that's on track right now. Darius McGill is on an outlap, so let that settle for a minute and he will be on his way. Gabe's kind of driving like he's on another lap, but he's at it. No, he's not. As this Alpine driver, Noah Smith, will make another run at a lap. Allegedly a purple sector for the Alpine driver, but the game has been known to lie about that. I see McGill on the map is slow, going towards the last 2 turns. I think he's just preparing to begin his lap, so we'll put the camera on him once the Alpine is through with their run. The Alpine is through with their run. Good traction out of 2/3. Right on the limit of the corner. Honestly, I'd believe it if you told me that that middle sector was the purple. One more corner to make. Keeps it in the boundaries. We might have quite a lap on our hands. Never mind, it's a 104.3, so that is currently front row. Run aboard with AJ Knickel. And make an effort to give a sort of tutorial of each corner on the track. Red Bull Ring looks simple, but each corner seems to have a weird gimmick or something. This one's an uphill braking zone, but the car likes to unpack itself on exit because of that. Turn 2 is not a corner. Brake for 3, right about where that green light is usually if you want to be conservative. You have no traction because you're basically sideways. Or like you're basically on an incline, about to slide off the road, so mindful of traction exiting 3. Turn 4 is the most fun corner on the track in my opinion. Tightens on exit though, and then weird sweeping downhill left that you have to take at a bizarre apex. Same thing applies to the following corner, but extensions here are easy, and unpacking the car is easier still. Second to last turn is just a quick double click on the paddle and turn in, and you don't want to do that in the final corner. Surviving the lap, but invalid, so not really. Crabtree's, well, they're driving like they're trying again, but they got this in next, so there's no purpose. As Darius McGill has found some curbs outside of turn 1 that don't like Haas cars. He barely manages to break out of the way for the incoming vehicles. I think we're Noah Smith and Ellie Carr. Ellie Carr blinking a tiny bit. Shane Wensloff is on his way around the track. That's a name I'm probably going to mess up at least once during this broadcast. It's not even that complicated of a name, but it's just a combination of consonants that tends to twist a few tongues. Kind of like that sentence itself. Wensloff. I'm sure I'm going to say Wensloff or Lensloff or something. I'm going to repeat a consonant that doesn't have to be repeated. Somewhere along the way here. Making a return stint to ARC Formula 1 as he was a driver back in about 2019. And I believe he was one of the top drivers at the time. I think. No, I'm thinking of... Sorry, wrong Shane. That was Shane ODME back then. Back when I was a driver. Wensloff was the racer in 2019. That much is correct. And he runs a 66, gains 3/10, jumps Macintosh. Looks like Gabe will make another run at a hot lap here. Not a whole lot of time left in the session. So these will be this is leading up towards each driver's final attempts at a qualifying run. Thanos is going for another lap on the same set of mediums. The camera on Gazzola because, well, actually Wensloff is on a lap. We'll look at him quickly while Gabe is on a straightaway, I think. He will make a 1/10 of an improvement, jump 2 more cars, jump both his teammate and the Alpine driver whose name I wasn't told. How's Gabe faring? He has survived the lap. What will it yield? Cracked the 104, jumping Ellie Carr in the Williams, who is in the pit lane and will not be able to improve that lap unless the session timer is wrong. Which it very well might be. It tends to like to do that. Thanos, last name, and Agnosto, I believe is how you say it, ups the ante further, a 103.7, so we finally exceeded the pole time of AF3. It took until the last moments of the session to achieve it, but we did. And very obedient through the first corner is the Williams of McIntosh. Heads up the hill to turn 3. Correct braking point. Most people will actually shift up to 3rd exiting turn 3, which I'm surprised McIntosh didn't do that. Head to turn 4. Takes it about well enough. Weirdest corner on the track, although not the hardest. Survives. And there's the invalidation. That's going to collect a lot of people. Because the car pushes outward there. It washes up. So the session timer has allegedly expired, and it appears as though it truthfully has expired, and it's not a desynchronization on this occasion. Final 2 corners, tidy. Will this be an improvement? Yes, but not by enough to matter. However, that was on the medium tires, so AJ will have that strategy advantage to his name. The Alpine driver with the name I don't know will not have that same advantage. As he starts on soft tires. And everyone else around him will be starting on mediums, pretty much. So that concludes the AF2 qualifying session. Remains to be seen if the lobby will function through to the end of the GP. Matthew Stott saying no lap time. Having simply no luck with invalidations. It's quite a spread field for Red Bull Ring, the shortest track on the calendar. That's not enough time to read through the grid order. So I'll do it on the formation lap instead, where I have like 2 whole minutes. Bit of head scratching. Hair in my mouth. Anyway. Bodily inconveniences aside, we're a few seconds away now from the formation lap for the Grand Prix here. My speech is already failing me. I still have another race to do after this, Riker. I'm doing the Ironman again, just like I did at Monte Carlo. I'm doing all 3 races in a row. 2 of them I'm doing solo. At least with Monaco, I had a co-commentator in AF3 and 1. We had 3 co-commentators in AF3. But I'm not going to have any here or in the next race as far as I'm aware. It's got its advantages though. As we now run through the grid order. Let's take you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. We have Thanos and Agnosto on pole, followed by Darius McGill, and Alfa Romeo Haas front row. What universe is this? This Alpine driver, whose name was not communicated to me, unless that comment is telling me, which I might look. Oh, it's not a name. Feared by Gaming. I guess I at least owe it to him to call him that, even though we have feared and feared. You know about cloning. The original must exist somewhere. AJ Knickel starting 4th in the Aston Martin. Shane Wensloff and Tyler Crabtree, the two McLaren teammates, occupy row 3. Tyler McIntosh and Gabe Cazzola on the 4th row. The debuting Ellie Carr starts 9th, followed by Noah Smith in the Alpine, and then Matthew Stotts, who failed to set a qualifying lap, rounds the grid out. I'm missing things. I'm missing things. Would be any more broad and incoherent right here? Alright. All the green flags in the world on each part of the screen. Now they're yellow, now they're green. 1, 3, 4, 5. I know how to count. 5 red lights, they're all gone, and the Austrian GP for F2 is away. This time we have no takeouts before the first corner. However, we are now 3 wide, and Feared by Gaming has just turned the 2 leaders into each other, and Shane Wensloff and Tyler McIntosh take full advantage. They are now 1-2 heading towards the top of the hill. I believe McIntosh has got a bit of a collision from Thanos. Got pushed through turn 3 a little bit. Now side by side with the Alpine driver. And Wensloff is making good his escape plan as these two continue to brawl for second. A lot of curb for McIntosh means he washes up into the Alpine driver and gets away with P2, but there may be some reprimanding for that later, depending on, following actions. Definitely big losers and big winners on this opening lap. The big winner definitely Wensloff and McIntosh. The big losers definitely the 2 leaders, as Gabe retires from the session on the first lap. And is that any form of safety car? I don't really feel like it should be. He's all the way back there. It appears as not. And now the drag racing begins. Feared by Gaming has a run on the Alfa Romeo. Will he make it? Or will he take it? Excuse me. He does. Just enough real estate for an Alpine car to be put there, but nothing doing. That exit on the outside lane is far too strong. Darius McGill's definitely been the biggest loser. He's now second from last running on the track when he started on the front row. But obviously qualifying should be proof enough that he has the pace to get back up there. And this also may be a race of attrition, as not a great debut for Ellie Carr, whose debut lasts a lap and a quarter, or lap and a half, I should say. We have a virtual safety car. Crabtree uses this opportunity to get a collision penalty with Matthew Stott, so I didn't even know was in the area. I'm not really sure that that was fair, but there's nothing we can do about it because he's serving it anyway, whether he wants to or not. Then again, I didn't see it. Maybe there was a collision. 2 team co-owners end up colliding, and Crabtree ends up getting a little bit worse off from it, to say the least. Fridge noises, background noise, try to ignore that for the moment. We're under VSC anyway, it's not like there's any important action it's interfering with just yet. Feedback Gaming looking for a pass under the VSC. Looks like it's ending now. And Feared by Gaming tries to push his luck too far. Gets a DT for speeding under the VSC. We have a lot of acronyms in motorsports. McIntosh might have been a little asleep at the wheel on that safety car restart, but lower wings and possibly a bit of a battery dump will keep him away from the Alfa Romeo, who then gives him a little bit of a nudge through turn 3. Ultimately, at that speed, that's only really hurting the Alfa Romeo, not the Williams. Feared by Gaming with a penalty and a wild ride. I'm not sure what that came from. That looked like a puncture-induced spin and an absolute nonsense penalty for him as well. A very similar thing that happened to a driver in fastest laps. A similar thing that happened to a driver in AF3, which is likely to be removed then. And now we're starting to get penalties in play too. I mean, I'm not really surprised by that. It's with how many invalidations there were in qualifying, it seemed only a matter of time before we had a lot of penalties on the board. Wrong one. No, that was the right one. Oh my goodness, there we go. I remembered how to use the spectator menu. You'd think I would remember by now. I've been doing this for how long now, but sometimes my brain still has a Windows error. Bit of twitching from that Alfa Romeo. Williams just exits. He's pitting in. I don't know if he must have gotten damage from something. And now we have a 4-car DRS train at the lead. Or following the leader, I should say. More twitching from that Alfa Romeo has just about caused AJ Knickel to find himself in the pit lane. Or a backlot. The Grecian internet seems about as derelict as the Colosseum. That's not in Greece, I'm aware. Pantheon. Pantheon? That's the word, right? I'm sorry, I'm defiling important European landmarks because I don't know. I used to be a geography nerd. I don't know why I just thought the Colosseum was in Greece, but old ruins, old Spartan or Athenian ruins, God of War mode, that's what this internet looks like right now. He has closed up to the back of the leader in McLaren. Obviously DRS contributing to that pretty heftily. That'll be an overtake into 3, but now it will be Wentzloff with the DRS advantage. But Thanos, dumping all of the ERS in the known universe, will manage to stay ahead going towards 4. Oh, there's a microwave. No one said I was a professional commentator. I don't get a soundproof room. I'm in the middle of a living room. So, as the weirdest looking spin for Thanos, Thanos has indeed snapped, but it didn't take half the population. It just took his rear tires. So as soon as he gains himself the lead, he now finds himself with very sandy tires, and we have a 3-way fight for the lead. Matthew Stotts has gained the lead. Mind you, he started the race dead last, and he's an AF3 reserve. AF3 driver, process of reserving. Done! Windows error, again. Really need to get it together. I have another race after this. McGill just out-drags Macintosh towards turn 3. It's as simple as it gets. The Williams might have a response going into 4, but from this far back, I don't think so. No, he's not on the battery, he's just abstaining from that. I don't know if the softs are maybe starting to show a bit of wear. The medium tire runners are beginning to establish a takeover, perhaps. I feel like softs should be more than 7 laps. I would think maybe after 10 they'd wear, but 7? I didn't think they'd have a problem yet. Although there have been no shortage of times where the medium tire just has better race pace, even after a couple of laps. Maybe the soft tires aren't falling off, but the mediums are just better. Just to get better tires, forehead, you know? I prefer Falcon tires myself, but that's not racing, that's more drifting, so here we are. As I said before, none of the doors in this house are quiet. That applies to the microwave one. Macintosh in the neighborhood of that Haas car, but it's a tall order to try and do anything with it with harder or softer compound but 8 laps of wear, and the fact that that Haas car started on the front row, meaning it obviously has no lack of pace. But the Williams rear tires are clearly lacking something. And now it's Tyler versus Tyler, sort of. Not much of combat though, as Crabtree is easily clear before 1. Feared by Gaming obtains more penalties. He's already up to, well, 9 off of actual warnings, and then that 10-second one that shouldn't have happened. And he obtains another one. While we can remove penalties post-race if they're deemed to be unfair, we can't remove them if you get disqualified from the sheer quantity. Like there's a half conflict for the lead. But with an exit like that, I don't think Stotts has any chance of sending up to that Aston Martin here. Crabtree with another really simplistic overtake on that Haas. Thought we were about to have a collision there. I think he forgot to downshift a bit. I've seen exiting in 3rd, not 4th. Tries to feint a dive, but I don't think anybody with, you know, a sane mindset would think that that's a dive range. That's probably been a warning for that McLaren. Matthew Stotts pits in. Curious. He must have some form of damage, because these mediums should have been good for... Oh yeah, he does have damage. As I say, those mediums were definitely not going bad, so... Perhaps he had a collision with AJ somewhere along the way, I'm not sure. And there's the go fast beep for the Haas car. Crabtree puts up no resistance. And I think I know exactly why that is. Because now Tyler Crabtree gets the go beep. But he's not on the battery. So he's not even on DRS. If he'd used either one, he'd had a chance at a pass. But he seems just disinterested. Matthew Stotts is on hard tires, which, barring further incidents, those will safely take him to the end of the race. He may not be the fastest car on the track, but he does sort of have the peace of mind that he's not going to have tire issues later. Nope. There we go. So the penalties continue to pile up here in this race. Top two have none. The top two are running quite clean races. Matthew Stotts, who before pitting was also in the top three, also with none. Probably helped by the fact that he just drove 36 other laps around this course before this. So he's probably got a little bit of knowledge to his credit going on. Crabtree continues to grab hold of that Haas car's diffuser, but do nothing with the pace advantage. Soon enough he won't have a pace advantage, as the soft tires are not super far from reaching their limits. I'd have to imagine. We have a yellow up ahead. A stricken Alpine who is a lap down. Thanos grabs a penalty, putting him at 6 seconds. The Alpine's tires are very overheated, and he may struggle just to reach the pit lane safely at this point. I just say, you need to pit. Those tires are dead. You need tires, you idiot. Tires are important for a race car, and they're a lot better when they aren't, on fire. We're not doing McLaren's brakes impressions. Now Crabtree elects to make the overtake, but then he subsequently misses turn 4, and the Haas car surprisingly didn't have a chance to retaliate. I have to mince my words sometimes in this league. Not retaliate, because people do actually do that. But I don't think this Haas car feels like he's going to do that right now, so... As Shane Wensloff pits for new tires. Well, he's already got the new tires. He's just on his way out of the pits. Complete sentences, Riker. Use your words. Comes out right next to Matthew Stotts. These two were near each other before the first of the pit stops. But the McLaren will be on the faster tires for the vast majority of the rest of the race. And by the time that the hards might be a little better than those mediums, it'll probably be too late. Crabtree reclaims third. I don't remember him losing it. Wensloff gets a superior exit from 4, and he will be on his way. Stotts actually has F2 pace. He just needs an F2 safety car to get him back into the F2 race. DRS for the Haas. The McLaren puts up minimal resistance once again. Exit in third gear. Yeah, there's the big European sweat move right there. But it might not avail him. Well, he's not on the battery, so he doesn't want it to, apparently. They have like 3 cars that are sort of near each other, but like due to one circumstance or the other, they're not going to be battling very aggressively right now. Actually, most of those conditions are just tires. The only battle that may take place is down here for P7 between Macintosh and Noah Smith. But the car ahead is on the better tires. And has a fully charged battery, but still seems to be a little bit on edge. Whereas that Alpine car has absolutely zero battery. I just missed Crabtree out drag for the lead. Lead? For third. Where are we on the track? What universe am I in? We have a yellow in Sector 1. Click, that would be Noah Smith. Being distracted, I just missed an overtake for third again, and I am really making a mess of myself here. Okay, just look at third. Just keep an eye on third. Not right now. Doesn't matter where I put the camera at right now. Nobody's in a position to pass anyone. Overtakes are for the first half of the track. Once they get to turn 5, they're like disabled. It's like the DRS in wet weather. Just turn it off. Just turn off overtakes. And Crabtree will finally put his old soft tires to rest and pit in. Where will he emerge, as he's also forced to serve that 5-second penalty from earlier in the race, I believe. Yeah. Following those pit stops, Darius McGill has been left on his own. And now, both Shane Wensloff and Matthew Stotts are right in his territory. So now we're going to have a three-way battle to determine who's provisionally on the podium. Wensloff's going to dive into one. McGill cuts him slack. I don't think that move was on, but... Oh, actually no. Looking at the age of his tires, I'm sure McGill doesn't want anything to do with any of this right now. So maybe he was just getting out of the way. Oh boy. Oh boy. Why is heart attack taking so long? A wee bit of a scare for the Haas car. A little bit of dirty air can make an F1 car go a little bit numb. That's for sure. Until the next game, where that might be fixed. Time penalty for his troubles. That was not fun. Thanos and the Alfa Romeo has pitted in. AJ Knickel is making these tires go quite the distance. Obviously using his battery to supplement the fact that he's probably taking the tires pretty conservatively. Yeah. The way that he's accelerating from these corners, he is nursing these tires like it's no one's business. But that'll of course mean that in a couple of laps from now, he'll be on fresh soft tires, and he will be an absolute weapon of mass destruction. It's just a matter of how close can he remain to Wensloff and Stotts, and everyone else for that matter, in the, the following laps. And, also avoid penalties. Excuse me. This drink next to me is not doing much to help that. The drink that I grabbed in the middle of the AF3 race under a safety car. Wensloff is absolutely hauling right now. Matthew Stotts is just about staying in tow through way of DRS. cutting into the lead though, so AJ obviously must remain mindful of that. If the gap gets too low, he needs to pit and minimize losses. Otherwise, you won't have enough time to make up the time later. That was redundant. Matthew Stott's just hanging on by a thread in this one to the back of the other McLaren. The fact that his hard tires are, you know, at some point going to be superior to those mediums in like the very closing laps of the Grand Prix means this is going to even out right around the lap 31-32 mark, assuming that things go, you know, on rails as they are right now. And Stotts is saving up a lot of battery too. Plus he's going to be pretty close. Is he going to go for I was going to say go for a Feared by Gaming because I read that on top. Is he going to go for a move? This is what my brain wanted me to say, but my mouth had other ideas. He's not going to go for a Feared by Gaming. Why am I the way that I am? Meanwhile, the Alfa Romeo Thanos is catching Darius McGill as AJ has finally seen the writing on the wall, and into the pit lane he goes. No doubt in my mind, the McLaren driver will emerge the leader, and AJ's going to have himself a bit of a Gran Turismo driving mission ahead. Quite a bit of one, because he's going to be coming out right next to this, just ahead. Down the inside, double squeeze, but that's just hard racing in a corner that doesn't really allow for tight racing, so I wouldn't really fault either driver on that. They both squeezed each other, so McGill tags the Alfa Romeo. Kind of helped him turn almost, though, ironically. So AJ must gain 4.5 seconds as Stotts has taken the lead of the Grand Prix. Again, I would like to remind you, this is supposed to be an AF3 driver. He's punching above his weight class. And he's on track for easily a podium if he can keep the car in the white lines. Which he's just about doing. Maybe. Honestly, I'm not entirely certain. AJ has already cut in 8/10 on the 2 leaders. And furthermore, Thanos is also not too far away. Assuming the battle rages on between the top 3 once AJ arrives, Thanos will have plenty of time to rope himself into the battle, and we have a 4-car fight for the win coming down to the last few laps of the GP. So this is a slow burner, folks, but bear with me here, because if things work out the way that they do in my head, and we don't have any crashes along the way, speaking of crashes, the Alpine ahead just had one as a lapped car. Someone's writing the script in the background, and they seem to have some vague idea of what they're doing. I just wonder if that Alpine on a different lap is going to play into things at all. AJ gained a second on the leader. There's your fastest lap for the evidence. Not even Thanos could touch it. It was a 10th or so off. Of course, older tires. He's still going to be faster than the 2 leaders, especially if they squabble again. Excuse me. AJ is absolutely draining his battery life, though. Aggressive braking. He's definitely using those softs for every little ounce they're worth. Which, I mean, you know, why wouldn't you in that position? So, still keeping an eye on other... Darius McGill has taken these medium tires So far, I don't know what he's on. I just noticed that his tires are about to be 25 laps old. He's finally going to put them away. And McIntosh will follow him in. So we're also going to have a separate battle for P5 that should be decided on track because they do have the same amount of penalties. AJ can now see his targets up ahead. Another good lap from the Canadian driver and he will find himself probably in DRS range. I say, Shane, believe me, you don't want to do that now. Because if you do that, AJ is going to have a free express ticket to your back bumper that you don't have because you're in an F1 car. And so it shall be. It's now a battle for 6th because they've been jumped by the McLaren. Suddenly there's an Alpine there who's given McIntosh zero real estate but seems to have let off. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention these two have had an issue before. At the Canadian GP last week. So I don't think these two like each other too much. I would probably keep an eye on that. As here comes Shane Wensloff laying his claim on the lead. Knickel has gained DRS advantage. I just sounded like an in-game commentator there. I had to make a distinct pause to allow the sound file of the driver's last name to end before continuing. And now our top 3 are under a blanket, as are 6th and 7th. Tyler McIntosh, he smells the blood in the water. That's a pretty easy out drag right there. McGill wisely decides to just not worry about it, because he's got turn 4. But McIntosh just screeches off into the distance with that corner exit, putting a little out of reach. Excuse me again. I just realized the top 3 are 3 different tire compounds. I almost said Kyer compounds. What is that? What is a Kyer compound? Oh, a huge tank slapper for Shane Wensloff, the driver that probably has the most worn tires now as it stands. We have a crash. It's feared by gaming again. A crossover from Sots, but the DRS, neither of them have DRS, so Matthew may end up being the winner from that. AJ brakes incredibly late, finds himself all over the curb, but he hangs it, and that's the lead for the Aston Martin driver. Wensloff still hasn't lost the plot, he's still right there, waiting in the wings. I do not know what just happened there. I do not think, from what I could tell, that the Williams hit the Haas. He may have just overcooked on the throttle. Something it's very easy to do over there, because somebody needs to run a Zamboni over that corner exit. Or something. Well, Stott's next move will be to exit the track for a minute. He does not have any opportunity here, nor does his opponent in the mirrors. Thanos now has now spotted his targets. And now we're going to have 4 cars under a blanket / DRS train before the end of the lap, probably. As we have McGill miles off the circuit, and I couldn't help but notice that this Alpine was in the area. I don't know if those are correlated. It would be wrong to assume that it is a correlation, but that'll be the end of McGill's race, whatever it was. AJ has made good his escape plan just about. But what are them tires looking like? How much has he pushed those tires? He's gotten out of DRS range. Shane Wensloff has looped it out of the last corner. That'll put him out of contention for this podium, barring something dramatic. I'm not going to say it can't happen. Actually, the odds are pretty likely. Especially now that Stotts has clawed his way back to DRS range on the Aston Martin. Not a great exit for him, though, and AJ is going to screech off into the distance once more. He has to now keep in mind that Alfa Romeo filling his mirrors is going to be on tires that are about even with his, but also just a driver that took pole, so he probably has more pace. Two McLaren drivers swapping positions, probably because Wenzelhoff is missing the vast majority of his front wing. Thanos, aware of his leg, I think he was trying to not stay on the same lane as Matthew if he could help it. I think AJ just got a little shaky through there. He had to correct something, and now once again, Stotts and now Thanos in tow. And there's a penalty for AJ, so now all three of these drivers have one. But he still has less. AJ goes defensive, but defends on the wrong lane, usually. Usually you want the outside, in my experience. Is Stotts going to save the commentator? Oh, you bet he is. Finally. And there's a... oh my. Bozo. Couldn't hold it in. Bozo! What does this change? Do any of the lead cars actually decide to pit here? I think Stotts might. Yeah, the lead three have no reason not to. They'll be ahead of Crabtree. And that's assuming he doesn't go in. The first car that I can see that I don't think pits here are, well, the bottom three. Really. Yeah, indeed the top three follow one another in the pit lane. Crabtree will follow suit. And if I'm McIntosh, actually I might as well pit. Because he's too far away to gain any places by not doing that. Same thing up... yeah, everyone might as well pit. As he gets a penalty for speeding under the safety car. As if he wasn't already out of the race. He doesn't pit. I mean, I suppose that does have the advantage of the tires being easier to warm when they've been used a little. And yeah, the back two not pitting, that doesn't really surprise me a whole lot. They don't have much wear on their tires, and they probably don't have any spares left. Perhaps that's maybe also why McIntosh didn't pit. He doesn't have anything else to go to. Obviously, I can't see the other driver's tire sets, so... be weird if you could, but no. I mean, I say that. I can see their fuel and their ERS levels for telemetry. That person has joined, and I think that is supposed to be one of the drivers, but they safe to say they missed the start by a little bit. Well, now we are setting up for a should be 3-lap dash. My nose is getting plucked. Yeah, it should be a 3-lap dash to the end. Everyone is going to have soft tires, probably a full battery. Yeah, full battery. Now Tyler goes into the pits, realizes that, yeah, not ideal. Even if it will put him back in 7th, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so now by this margin, everyone will be on a fresh set of soft tires. Pretty much everybody but Shane has a penalty, so this is really helping him a lot. The most he's got to do, pretty much, is survive, and he will probably be good for a podium, if not the entire W. Why am I putting on tire? We all know what everyone's tires look like. And there's that notification. The safety car will be in this lap. And indeed, 3 laps to decide who wins the GP. Smart money would be on Mr. Wenzloff in the McLaren, because he is the only driver to this point who doesn't have a penalty. If AJ can really make good his escape, he could be the winner because he has less than everybody else. That isn't Shane, as Thanos twitches out. He's going. He about went right into a wall, but he is going right at the earliest possible chance. Seems everybody was pretty much on the ball there, so dead heat. Crabtree grabs a penalty. McIntosh also grabs a penalty. If Wenzloff gets near, I imagine team orders from Crabtree will be placed. I would not really be all that surprised. Thanos gives a little tap to the back of the Red Bull. Doesn't really matter at that speed, but... Bruh. I think I'll be seeing that in the incident report later. I didn't see all of it, so I can't be sure if my theory is correct, but I think the aforementioned Canadian Grand Prix just reared its ugly head again. We have 2 laps to go. Stotts. There's going to be DRS only on the final lap because of safety car, so sort of forgot that. It's activated right away after a VSC, but that wasn't a virtual. Stotts, despite having no chance of winning with his penalty, is going to go ahead and save the commentator. He'll pull off a smooth crossover, but will he even have a chance at the overtake? Not really. This isn't having enough braking zone for that. Thanos lying in wait, seeing what develops between these lead two, and all of this is just playing perfectly into Wenzloff's hands. If we look at the gap to the leader, he's your leader. By technicality, unless AJ gets a pen removed. Or a warning removed, I should say. And, you know, then by extension, gets the penalty removed. Final lap of the Grand Prix, DRS available. At this point, it's down to who wins on track. Because I'm thinking unofficial winner will be Shane Wenzloff, no matter what happens. Matthew Stotts takes the lead down the... not back straightaway, this is the back straightaway we're going on to. But, he's got no DRS, and he's also got no battery. Thanos has DRS, also no one has battery. 3 laps ago, everyone had a full charge. Thanos just absolutely sticks it in there. That was absolutely never on. And I think the punishment is fitting of the crime. AJ slides up into Crabtree, gets the elbows out just a little bit. Crabtree's not going to try that. No, he's not. He's just going to fall back in line, and on track, an AF3 reserve in the form of Matthew Stotts is going to win the Austrian F2 Grand Prix. Holy crap. Shane Wenzloff is going to end up winning the Grand Prix based on a penalty. And, you know, Stotts will grab a podium as a reserve driver. Thanos had a slip up somewhere, I don't remember that. Oh, brother. Those are not happy tires. And then we also have... But yeah, driver of the day, undoubtedly Matthew Stotts. He went from 11th to 3rd. Technically won on track. Nose is stuffed again. He said before AF3, give him a lot of screen time. I don't have a choice, Sunshine. I really don't. And I believe this was only Shane's second arc start since his return. And he's gonna grab a win here in the Austrian GP. Gas. So there you have it for today's AF2 race. Shane Wensloff grabs the win on penalties over AJ Knickel. Stotts, who won on the track, had 6 seconds of penalties and grabs a podium as a reserve. Tyler Crabtree will grab 4th place. Thanos, despite taking pole, will only place 5th. That guy is going to finish 6th. Tyler McIntosh, though, places 7th. Classified as 3 laps down as opposed to DNFing. And then we have 4 DNFs for Feared by Gaming, Darius McGill, Ellie Carr on her debut. Technically gets a point, but I'm not really sure. And then Gabe Cazzola, who I didn't even make it through a lap. That'll do it for this presentation of ARC Formula 2. And again, after 45 minutes, we'll be back once again with AF1. Same track. Some different people. And probably a lot more turn 3 shenanigans.